Welcome back to Paint Your Style. It's Wednesday, so it is time to do a Paint Your Style. I hated this week's image. I just couldn't get into it, and so I've decided that I am going to actually do last week's Paint Your Style from this week, which presents an interesting challenge because I painted it a year ago, and I actually kept what I did a year ago. So this was my attempt at it a year ago. It's not my favorite, but it was the only Paint Your Style I did in 2022. I looked back at all of my posts from 2022 and this was the only Paint Your Style I did. So we're gonna reattempt a year later and just see where we are at. I'm quite excited just to sort of figure this out. I've picked my color palette. We're about to do the swatch card. And then we're gonna get into painting. So most of these paints are Cozmick creations, sort of because they fit like the pastel-y color palette of the pumpkin, I feel. But there are some Daniel Smith and some Roman Szmal, and then there's one color from Jackson's in here. I think that covers everyone. About half of the colors, three of the colors from the Morning Meadows palette are part of this. So it's fun to use them in a piece that's not a summery piece. When we were designing the palette, I did want it to be usable, not just in the summer. Lunar's still stuck in my brush. Love blue granite. We have Pebble. Pebble sort of reminds me of the new Roman Szmal gray that's just been released, just based on the pictures I've seen, though I haven't tried the new Roman Szmal gray yet, so I don't actually know how similar they are. I love doing these reference cards. They are incredibly important because it means when you do something you really like the colors of, you know exactly what you used. So I did a piece recently that a family member asked me to potentially recreate, and I was panicking because I couldn't remember what colors I used, and I couldn't find the reference card, and I found the reference card today. And that suddenly makes the idea of recreating this piece so much easier because I know what colors I used. So let's let this dry and then I'll come back and label everything. Alright, it's dry, so let's get into labeling everything. As always, I will leave the pigment information in the description. It just makes this sheet too crowded. Alright, so there's our color selection. I think it's gonna work. I hope it's gonna work. I'm worried that I haven't gotten the right blue for the background, but we'll see. Sometimes these things work out, and sometimes they don't, and I've got one extra color spot. So if I do need to add an extra color, I've still got space. For now, though, I'm pretty sure that this is at least a good starting point. And last year I used, actually I don't know what I used last year. Oh, it's on the back. What did I use? I used paints from Watercolours, Artistic Isle, 31 Purple Fish, and Cozmick Creations on Legion Lennox Cotton. I didn't list the colors though. Well, I think the background is Cloudy Haze by 31 Purple Fish. I don't know what Artistic Isle or Watercolours colors I would have used, but let's see how this goes. Alright, I'm actually going to start with like sketching out the rough. Area of the pumpkins. Oh, trying to open the kneaded eraser case is always a challenge. Really, these lines are just to give me like a basic idea of where I'm working my pumpkins, space-wise. So, I think for both of them, I'm going to start with a very, very light coat of Watercolor. There's pumpkin 1. There's pumpkin 2. Oh, this brush still had green in it. What project was I doing that this brush had green in it? Alright, and we're gonna let those dry now. So it's not totally dry, but it is more dry. And my goal is just to like sort of make the pumpkin shapes we masked out during the first attempt more pumpkin-y. I do like some elements of last year's. I like the looseness of it. I like how it's just sort of exists. That's one thing that sort of changed in my style the past year, is it's less loose than it was a year ago with this sort of type of painting. Alright, let's let this layer dry. Unlike how I normally do my videos, I am letting things dry more naturally today, which is odd for me to say, but I feel like trying something different and letting things dry in their own time is definitely different from how I normally create. I'm so used to reaching for the heat gun to help dry things, but today I actually have some time in the filming of this video, and so I'm gonna let things dry on their own. It's definitely taking longer. I'm realizing that I really don't have the patience to do this very often, but there is something sort of enjoyable about just letting the page dry on its own. I think I may have to add a little bit more yellow in here. Just to help. And I should have probably done this when the page was still wet. I'm also realizing how little this page likes to be worked. So I'm actually going to go in right now and add the next one. There's a tiny bit of green that needs to be added as well to these sections, but with how little this page likes to be layered, I should have realized this. It's a hot press paper. You don't really want to overwork a hot press paper too much, or it gets overworked more easily, I find, just in my experience. And so this is going to be a challenge. All the way up to where I'm going to put the stem in the center. You know what? We're just gonna wet the whole pumpkin. Which again, not how I really like to work. But there are moments that you don't get to work how you want to, and this is one of them. Now we've just got a whole bunch of spreading, and so I'm going to add in some more sparks of dawn, and we're just gonna like control it a little bit with yellow. Because at some point, once this is a little drier, I have to add green to this, and isn't that terrifying? I'm gonna have to add green to this. A little flecks of orange in other places, but I'm gonna wait tell, I'm confident that it's not going to make as much of a mess as we've made here. There. I'll let them go into a single point. I'll just dry a little bit more. I don't know that this pumpkin is dry enough to add details to, but I think this one is dry enough we can sort of start on it. So this one is actually much more green than it is orange. And I think maybe needs more yellow than I've got in it. Especially on that top edge. We're doing a mixture of buff and watercolors. Go. No, I want that one dry. I'm worried that I'm going to add green to this and totally mess it up because it's still going to be too wet. Maybe I'll give it another minute. I think it's as dry as it's going to get. Or it's as dry as it's going to get with me still being able to work in the green dots that I need to be able to do. Should there probably be a pattern to these? Yes. Is there going to be me? I'm caring less about following the pattern for these, matching the painting. Do they do? It's also got flecks of orange. Right. Let's wait for the second one to dry a bit. I think pumpkin number 2 is dry enough. It is very dark green. So to start with, we are going in and using Cutie in the sort of couple spots it has orange. It doesn't have orange in many places. It's mostly dark green. And now we're gonna go in with a whole bunch of dark green, though I think I'm actually going to start with autumn. This is going in straight with Kyoto, though we are going to add in Kyoto because it is sort of the best dark green. And it is very much the green that is part of this pumpkin. It's just not what it is starting with. Still left. I finally caved and used the heat gun. It was just taking a very long time to dry the pumpkins enough to go in. Added our stems. Now we get to do the best part, in my opinion. We get to do the background. And I'm doing the background in granulating grays. Because I can. Same thing that I did last year, I'm just using a different gray this year. I'm using 2 grays this year. I'm using a very yellow green gray for the bottom, which is Pebble. And I'm using a very blue gray for the top, which is blue Granite. This is not the paper for a project like this. Which is probably the same conclusion I came to last year. It absorbs really fast. Unless you keep things moving, you're going to get rid of your lines. The goal is that nothing dries. That's starting to dry, and so it can't. So, this is it a year ago. And I definitely think there are some pretty stark differences. One, a year ago painting anything bigger than a 3x2 or whatever the mini Legion pad is that was such a daunting experience that I wouldn't have enjoyed it. The other difference is these lines a year ago are so straight. I just didn't have the confidence to sort of let the color blend out. They're still not perfect this year. I'm still not super happy with them, especially in the second pumpkin. It got a bit too green on this bottom edge. But for the most part, I really like it. I really love the background. The background is bringing all my moody gray dreams to life. So I'm happy that I reattempted it a year later. I'm gonna have to find some other pieces in my collection that I can go back and reattempt, because I think there have got to be some others that I should go back and try a year later. If you follow me on Instagram and there are any pieces in particular you want to see me redo, let me know, because I think it's fun. I don't have all of the old pieces, so for some of them I'd have to reference Instagram posts, but for the ones I do have where I could have them actually in front of me, I think it's a really cool process.